You wake up in the middle of the woods, next to a TV, with a paper bag over your head, and you got no shoes. Your name is Momo, and there is no question about it, this is a terrible day. That being said, clinging to such a negative attitude will likely get you killed, so it's time to get a move on. After a successful leap over an easily jumpable gap, you spot what can only be described as a lump of mystery meat. It's either a dead octopus or the remains of a blood-soaked dress. You decide to leave it, since you're neither hungry for seafood nor inclined to wear anything from last year's fall fashion collection. A man has standards.
After entering a vent in the forest, I don't get it either. You come across a shoe and a pile of people just hanging around. Sure, they're dead, but you take this as a good sign because you must be getting closer to civilization. After some parkouring over horizontal trees and unnecessarily dangerous traps, the forest itself gets annoyed by you and decides to try to crush your tiny child body with a giant log. This is why cardio is so important.
In the distance, you spot a house. Because you're too small to properly reach the doorknob, you decide to engage in a little well-meaning breaking and entering. The window leads to the kitchen, which, unfortunately, is subpar in the cleanliness department. The kitchen table has some of last night's dinner left on it, which apparently includes a baby's arm. After doing some farmhouse exploration, you find a hat. I know that some people might consider this stealing, and they would be right, but you look damn good in it, so ethical issues be damned.
After the unlawful procurement of cephalic gear, you head down to the basement where you can hear music of the box variety. You find a shabby-looking door with a girl trapped on the other side. And being the good guy that you are, all stealing aside, you decide to help her break out of there. Looking around, you find a meat cleaver, which unfortunately is currently out of order. That's fine though, because in the next room over, you find an axe, which should be enough to convince the door to open. Before smashing the door, you decide to put on your protective paper bag, because safety first.
You make your entrance by turning the lower part of the door into small splinters of firewood. However, this frightens the girl with the music box. Apparently, a man wielding an axe and wearing a paper bag over his head can be construed as a threat. Oh well, that's fine. The finer points of social interaction have always been somewhat confusing. The girl makes a run for it and you decide to follow. While chasing her, again, cardio is important, you come across a room with alternative people. I know lockdown and isolation can be hard, but this seems somewhat extreme. That guy has a sock for an eye, and the woman has something else for a face.
After finally catching up to the little lady and convincing her that working together is the best way to survive, she leads you to the attic, where you will find a key that you need to progress. You also find a corpse hanging by a rope, and another alternative person. Creepy, yes, but you have to admire the work ethic that goes into all of this. After solving the mandatory crank puzzle you find in all horror games, you get the key to open the door that lets you escape the house. You, wanting a memento from the experience, decide to bring a shoe along.
You rush through the door and find the shed. Instead of walking around the shed like any rational human being, you decide to go through it because once in the shed, you have to push a box in order to enter an opening that will take you to the next room. Normally, this would not be outside the realm of your mental capacity, but the situation is made increasingly complicated by the fact that you brought a shoe along. You try and fail to bring your souvenir with you, and after 15 minutes of bad throws, you start feeling your companion's female eyes narrow, and you don't feel like listening to her nagging about how little time you have and how your ever-dwindling chances of survival goes down, so you decide to be the adult here and leave the shoe you found in the home of a mass-murdering psychopath.
Jumping through the opening, you land on a bunch of animal hide. Which is lucky because close by you can hear the sounds of a man sewing together body parts of another alternative person. Since tact seems like the wisest choice, you and your companion decide to sneak through a small cat flap. That turns out to be a tactical error, however, because the flap is pretty creaky, which alerts the craftsman. You make it outside, but the psycho bursts out of the door after you, shotgun in hand. I know that the man wants to blow your little child body apart, but you have to admire a man who takes COVID-19 that seriously. After 4 near-death experiences, you hide for a while. The man with the shotgun moves on and now stands between you and freedom. You try to sneak past, but get birded. Light shines. Time slows, your heart beating so violently that your lungs can report it for domestic violence. He moves on. You spot a hole. You take a chance, and you're free.
Alright, well, Thani, we are just about 2 days removed from playing the Little Nightmares 2 demo and recording the session. That was a fun one, wasn't it?
Yes, dude. That really was a fun one. It honestly left a lasting impression on me.
Speaking of, parts of the game, what would you say was your favorite part of the demo that we played through?
My favorite part? Well, okay, so when you go into the house and how creepy that is, walking around in there, being careful not to intrude on anyone if anyone's in there, and it's super spooky, and you make your way down to the basement. When you find the girl playing the music box, and you're like, oh god, I gotta free her, and you go and you get the axe. It caught me off guard how menacingly you drag the axe. Even during my playthrough, I was like, you better stop playing that music box right now.
Yeah, it was a lot like that, especially considering that you're wearing a paper bag over your head. Anybody would freak out if they saw a guy with an oversized axe, at least for him, walking towards you with a paper bag over your head.
100%. I was super worried that we were gonna keep carrying the axe in there, and because that would be horrifying. But you drop it, and then you try to give her your hand. Being so forward, trying to give her your hand already after just meeting her. Wow.
Oh my god, this video is now getting age-gated. Jesus Christ, 18 plus.
So she's like, no! And she runs away. But that was my favorite part. I don't know, that was really hilarious to me. The atmosphere in the game is really, really good.
Oh, that's true. That's probably my favorite part. The atmosphere. When you enter the house, especially, it becomes fantastic. And this might be a little bit of a cheating answer, but the graphics together with the side-scrolling nature of the game creates this diorama feel for me. It's like I can just touch the characters and move them around with my hands. Of course, I can't do that because there's on my screen, but the aesthetic of childhood toys and television that this game wakes in me is quite beautiful. And there's a few games like that I have played. For example, A Little Big Planet, which is a game that, well, basically you have the players create other games, and in that game there's always this sense of it being constructed, at least for the most part.
Oh my goodness, dude. I loved Little Big Planet. I played the heck out of that during my childhood.
And we are definitely going to talk a lot more about that game and the different horror-related levels in that game. That can fill an entire video. Another game that it reminds me of was Luigi's Mansion. The first one. Well, all of them to a certain extent. Because in Luigi's Mansion, you have a forced perspective. You enter a room or a hallway, and the camera moves after you to again show you in such a. It's not completely a side scroller, but it's clearly a diorama of everything that happens in the, diorama of a room or a hallway. And whenever you have to do something in that room, you're locked to that room. It's not like a ghost will crush its way out of the room and there will be a big ass hole in the wall forever now. No, all the rooms are segmented so that once you're done with the room, you're probably done with it. With a few exceptions, we can go back and get things. But again, that type of one room, one screen type of thing, yeah, just speaks to me, man. Sometimes, people talk about games being seamless, but I think seams, when chosen as a style, can work wonders.
You're right. The camera in the demo was fantastic. My immersion was complete, only being broken by literally the tutorial messages that pop up. But I mean, there's only going to be so many of those. When the main game comes out, I'm so excited for that. Lost. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. And I feel that I know that I'm gushing a little bit over just a demo, but if you don't know this, if you're a person who's watching this is the sequel to Little Nightmares 1. That's why there's a 2 in the title. And that game was really, really good. And I have all the faith in the game developers that they will be able to replicate and even enhance the experience when we're going to play the sequel. And it's fascinating here because I was thinking about this earlier when I was practicing the things that I was going to tell you, because that's what I do sometimes. I just sit in the room and talk to myself like a crazy person.
I do too, Lost, don't worry.
Excellent. The gameplay of Little Nightmares, both the demo and this one, it's not a very complicated game. It really isn't. You move through and you solve some puzzles, and the controls are solid, but there's nothing new here. The gameplay doesn't really drive the experience as much. It facilitates the experience. You are there to explore and experience a story, and that is what the gameplay is for. And that kind of thinking brought me into ideas of, okay, well, which games are mainly about gameplay and which games are mainly about something else? What is gaming as a medium? And okay, this is going deep down into a rabbit hole. I just wanted to say, I think the game was great.
One other thing I'd like to say that you've kind of touched on a little bit, though, already, is I love how alien you feel in this world. And normally when you think of alien, you think of like the monster almost, but you're a little kid. You're so small. It's like you really are an alien. You don't belong in this place at all. And the game really makes you feel bad from the moment that you start the demo. Like, oh god, I shouldn't be here. I'm not safe. Not at all. Like, I love that. That's so cool. Yeah. I haven't played Little Nightmares 1, and I'm definitely going to. I remembered a long time ago watching someone play it. So I'll definitely have to. 100%. After playing the demo, I've already got the game downloaded. I'm going to be playing it very soon.
That's an interesting point, because I don't know too much about the lore here. I don't know if it's just an aesthetical choice that you are such a small child and all of the other humans that are there, well, I say humans, but they barely count as humans at that point. They're so twisted and so turned. But I don't know if that is a if these children grow up to become such huge beings, or if you're something else, or if it's just a gameplay thing to make you feel smaller as you make your way through this twisted and an insane world.
Maybe.
I kind of think it is, just like how I think in Dark Souls Miyazaki said that you shouldn't focus so much about the sizes of the bosses, because it's mainly there for a gameplay to make you feel like a badass when you beat like Smo and Ornstein. It wouldn't be quite the same if they weren't so humongous, you know?
Yeah. That being said, though, now that I'm imagining Ornstein and Smo like a lot smaller, but this is so cool, Lost. You made me think with talking about all this lore. Just what is the lore behind that paper bag? That's what I want to know.
Oh yeah, why does he have a paper bag over his head to begin with? And is there something special about that paper bag? Is that the source of his powers? There are powers in the game. At least, well, maybe you don't have any, but a lot of the other people have. And yeah, no, maybe... I know that the sequel, you are traversing a city where the inhabitants have become completely addicted to television. I don't know if that is that is in connection with them being twisted monsters, or if that's something that comes on top of that. But maybe that paper bag has some protective, I don't know, protective qualities, or maybe just makes him feel protected, and there you have it. That's the effect thing. What's it called again? The not the Prozac effect. I feel like it is a P word.
Prozac, that's a medication.
Yes, well I know, but you know what I mean. It's the effect where you give a person fake medication, but it works because they believe it.
I don't know what that word is, but I know what you're talking about. I do. It's.
I am dying here, man.
When I look at that paper bag, Lost, I think of a label almost. You know how there's like a bunch of people that are, strung up on ropes in bags, hung, and all sorts of things on your way to the house in the demo?
Yeah.
Well, maybe you were signed up for slaughter too, in a way. Maybe that's a way of identifying you from the monsters in the world. I don't know. Who's to say?
Maybe. Placebo.
But that's just a theory.
It's no. It's a placebo. That's the word I was looking for. Placebo.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh,
you nailed it, Lost.
Now you can do your joke.
But that's just a theory.